Yeah, let me start with a Josh special here. No, I don't want to do it. I actually don't want to do it. I've decided I
I
don't
don't
want to do it.
I
So
don't even
I'm
know what
not
you're
going to
talking
do the
about,
Josh
but
special. All right. Oh, you want to? This is so. Anytime that the Cincinnati Bengals win a game, the Cincinnati Bengals are the best team to ever play the sport of football. They are just Trey Hendrickson, dog. Chase Brown, dog. Jamar Chase, dog. T. Higgins, dog. Joe Burrow, nothing can stop Joe Shiesty. Burr. Everybody, Jordan Battle stepping up big when needed. And what is that kicker over in Cleveland? The Bengals 1-0. Last time they started 1-0, they went to the Super Bowl. And you know what? That's a good omen. That's a good
that's
omen for the
facts.
Bengals
Facts.
this season. Why don't you start since I just hyped up the Bengals for you this entire. Well, yeah. Why don't we start? Yeah, but that's how it usually starts. We usually when the Bengals get a pretty big win.
Okay, I wasn't gonna do that, but I'm glad you
Okay.
did, I guess. So,
All
okay,
right.
the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me get some of my stats out here that I want to talk about. You know, I enjoyed this game. I liked this game. This game gave me what I wanted to see, and that was visual improvement of the defense against a division rival. And you're gonna say, people are gonna say, they didn't look great. You're right. They didn't look great. I never said the Bengals defense needed to look great. I said they needed to be good. And they were good enough to keep some of the Browns' drives from becoming touchdowns and staying at field goal attempts, one of which resulted in a missed field goal for the Browns. Okay. Joe Burrow, his whole career has gotten off to slow starts. And whether that's because of Zach Taylor, whatever, he just has always been slow. On top of that, he's never really been good against the Browns. Jamar Chase has never been good against the Browns. Denzel Ward tends to lock him down. Denzel Ward is a super talented cornerback. Jamar Chase, he says he's the best in the NFL. These two teams just match up really well against each other. I'm not worried about the Bengals offense. Joe Burrow is not going to throw 130 yards each game. They're not going to struggle to run the ball. They're not going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins locked down as much. Jamar Chase had a few drops. I'm not worried about that. However, this was a game where the defense needed to step up and win it for them. And so they did. The defense allowed 0 points on the last 5 drives of the game, and they didn't allow a rush longer than 5 yards. The Bengals offense had negative 18 yards in the fourth quarter. I believe they had like negative 7 in the whole second half or something. So it was not a good game at all for the Bengals offense. And the Bengals offense had to, turn to the defense and say, okay, here's your opportunity. Show us you can win this game for us. And they did. Jordan Battle, guy we love on this show, guy we talk about all the
Yeah.
time, but
I
there have
love
been
Jordan
some
Battle.
questions about. He came up with an interception, and it was a crazy interception. It was like the ball got tipped up in the air, and he dove and caught it. And then pretty soon, a little bit later on, same type of thing. DJ Turner the second, he tipped ball, dives to catch it, and that was really kind of the more ceiling of the 2 interceptions. That was a bigger deal. Kind of took the momentum away from them late in the game. If you're the Cleveland Browns, but that was a huge moment for that defense. And they also had some young guys step up. Demetrius Knight, he stepped up as a young guy who I have hyped up so much. I love this guy. I think he had 10 tackles against the Cleveland Browns. And then Shamar Stewart, the first overall pick, was a top-rated rookie by PFF this week. He didn't get any sacks, but he got a ton of pressures, and he got some batted balls that just ended drives, and he made his presence known. He also picked up and threw DeJuan Jones down on the ground at one point. And DeJuan Jones weighs like 380 pounds, so he's definitely a strong boy. So we will see what happens there. But first of all, Chess, I do want to highlight some of the Browns as well. But first, why don't you tell me what your thoughts are on some of these Bengals defensive players.
Yeah, I obviously wasn't really watching too thoroughly the Bengals and Browns game just because I was watching the Steelers game. But from what I did see, definitely much more of an improved defense from last year specifically. I mean, obviously, I don't really remember how you guys started last season. If it was, I believe it was a close game with, I would say the Patriots, but I don't remember what year you started off the season against the Patriots and who you started the
Last
season.
year. I
It was
hated
last year.
that. It was
Yeah,
terrible.
anyway, yeah. So it was a close game last year and stuff too. And this game was no different, but I feel like the defense definitely stepped up. I'm very glad, and I've said it before, no matter even if Jordan Battle plays for a division rival, I'm very happy for him. And I wanted him to get the ball more, like I wanted him to be more involved in the defense because I feel like he hadn't been. I feel like he was just kind of being like his potential was being wasted. And I knew what kind of breakout he could have been. And I felt like this really kind of showed that he can be that breakout defensive player that you guys really need. I know you guys have had kind of ups and downs with the safety position and whatnot. So it's really good to have a young, gritty safety that's, going to make that play like that interception that he had during that game. And I was really impressed with it. And I was very excited. I was glad that we mentioned it. I figured you would because you've been tweeting about Jordan Battle. We've been talking about it in the group chat. But yeah, like I said, I think Golden's defense looks different for you guys, and I think that's a good thing. It's way different than how it's been over the last couple of years, and I think that's beneficial because even if you have just a little bit of a more of an improved defense, I think you guys have a better chance at making a deeper playoff push than you've had in the last couple of years. So very exciting things to come. Now, like I said, very slow. Like I kind of would have liked more of a bigger win for you guys over the Browns. 1 point victory, 17-16 kind of really was reliant on Cleveland's kicker. He didn't really have that great of a game, but you guys held well on special teams and on the defensive side of the ball. And even if the offensive production was a little low, like you said, I don't think it's much worry on any side of the ball. Like you said, Joe Burrow's had historically slow starts, and he'll get into his into some momentum here in probably like week 3 or 4 or 5 even at the latest. And I think he'll really come into his own. So all positive things coming into week 2. Who do you guys play this week? Who are you guys?
The Jaguars.
Yeah,
Old
so that game
college
should
rival.
that game should be pretty fascinating in my opinion. I think it'll be. I don't think Jacksonville is too much of a big threat. And I think you guys should win that game, but we'll see,
And that
how everything goes.
I want to see if the offense can bounce back against Jacksonville and then allow the defense to also kind of stay the same and build some
Right.
consistency. They did bring in some guys that I am excited about in terms of depth. I don't know a ton about them though, so I'm not going to say anything yet. They brought in Isaiah Joski, I think is his name. He's a former second-round pick for the Saints. And then Mike Peenel, they brought him in last week before the debut. He was with the Chiefs, but I'm going to make a video about them later on, I think, just because I don't know a ton about them. TJ Slayton also, he was signed in free agency, and no one really talked about him, but he had a pretty good game for the Bengals as well. However, like I said, the defense doesn't need to be great. They just need to make key moments. And that was what was so good about that 2021 defense where they went to the Super Bowl. Everyone, like Bengals fans, tend to paint that defense in like this divine imagery, like Jesse Bates, DJ Reader, prime Sam Hubbard. And it was a good defense. It was a good defense. But the thing that made them so great was that they came up with turnovers in key moments, specifically in the playoffs. Jermaine Pratt against the Raiders. Jesse Bates did it a few times during the playoffs. So if the Bengals can get back to that mode and force some of these drives that last year would have been touchdowns to be field goals, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with that because I think this game last year is a Browns win easily. The Bengals lost this type of game multiple times last season. So we'll see. But, I like being right about stuff. I hated being right on Sunday because the Browns draft class is probably my favorite draft class this year. in terms of like prospects. So Carson Schwessinger, he was, I believe, PFF's third highest rated rookie, and he looked fantastic. And I remember when the Browns drafted him, one of my friends who's a Browns fan was like mad about it. And I said, no, wait, this dude is smart. He's going to be a great player for you guys. And he showed it. He showed it on Sunday. He played fantastic. And I hated it, every moment of it. Because I was like, part of me was like, yes, I was right about this guy. And the other part of me was like, stop doing that to my team. So Carson Schwessinger, shout out to you. One of the other ones is Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. He was like, I think, a 5th round pick who, a lot of people didn't really pay attention to because of his size. I really liked him, especially as a receiving threat. And with Quinshawn Judkins not ready to go yet, he got a ton of carries. He got a ton of targets in the receiving game and just had a great game for the Bengals. Or for the Browns. I would argue that he actually played better than Jerome Ford did. And I think the stats would back me up on that, even though I don't have those in front of me right now.
Would.
Okay. And then Harold Fannin Jr. kind of did exactly what I expected him to. He's a tight end, but they used him much more as a wide receiver, kind of similar to how the Bengals use Mike Gesicki. And he had a ton of catches for a ton of yards. And I've already picked him up in all my fantasy leagues. So maybe if you need a tight end who's a receiving threat, maybe go get Harold Fannin Jr. Not a big name that a lot of people are talking about, but that's my recommendation. So I just wanted to shout out those guys. I hated you on Sunday, but thank you for helping me be right. So that's all I got for the Bengals this week. Hopefully just that they can carry on that momentum defensively against the Jaguars and offensively kind of rebound here, which Joe Burrow has historically done well against the Jaguars. So that should help.